a couple minor demons, and we just got extremely lucky. But this battle with the Beastmen and the Minotaur showed what happens when you don't get extremely lucky, or if you get extremely unlucky, which was my case. Then we had our Call of Cthulhu game on Saturday night, and they finally have gotten to Fire Hill to try to see if they can investigate a little bit of what's been going on that seems to be centered around this place called Fire Hill, which is old Apache territory that has a history of murder and mayhem attached to it. Massacre, an Apache massacre, a massacre of the Apache during the Apache War by soldiers. You know, I'm trying to think of how it actually called it. Federal soldiers, because it was right after the Civil War. So, I mean, they're not Confederate soldiers anymore. They were, but anyway, by a group of soldiers. So they've gotten to the point. They managed to hunt down some clues around town and talk to some people that were able to give them a little bit of information. And as I said a number of weeks ago, the interesting counterbalance of this type of Call of Cthulhu is there's no university to access. There's no library. There's not even an old professor in town archetype. There's the town preacher, the elder, and the young deacon who Atticus, Andy's character, has gone to for salvation, and he began talking about the wonders of the cosmos. And obviously, I think we can all see where that's going. I don't mythos to start to put some threads together, even though these characters are fairly mythos illiterate, except for one of them. Yeah, yeah. So Andy has a history of joining cults in my games. He joined the Mind Flayer cult, which was also basically like a Cthulhu cult, in D&D, because I kind of position the Mind Flayer as some sort of incarnation of elder gods or something like that, or scions of elder gods or something like that, and because it makes sense. And so now he's starting to talk to this priest, and we're all like, he's gonna join another cult. He's gonna. So we'll see how that plays out. It was kind of interesting because those characters have been sitting there from the beginning, and like, nobody went to the church, and and we see this through a modern lens. Like, I think the one flaw I've seen in any historical game, particularly real world historical gaming, is that the knee jerk reaction of modern humans who have grown up in fairly liberal environments, liberal societies, tend to default to, oh, my character's a skeptic, my character's an agnostic. Whereas yeah, Atticus is a Despotus guy, though. Yeah, that should be fun. Um, it, the vast majority of people, maybe in the Old West, it was a little different because there were a lot of people who were outsiders, who grew up outside of society, who were not orthodox in any way, shape, or form. But especially like in the medieval era, like playing medieval game like Dark Ages Vampire or Ars Magica, like almost all the players always like, yeah, my character doesn't really believe all that. I'm like, no, you do. You do. Like, even if you as a 20th century human can break apart dogma into rationalism, you do believe in it. And here's why: because at that time, the things the church told you were this is gonna be funny saying this now, as equivalent as to what scientists tell you today, which was, I started laughing internally because we have 40% of the population who doesn't believe in science at this point, or modern medicine, or has this bizarre conspiratorial fabric around modern medicine. I mean, some of it which is not entirely invalid, but you know what I mean. The fact that now, 10 years, 15 years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, everybody believes in science, now not so much. Not so much. And I always find it interesting when people's knee-jerk reaction, especially like in a historic medieval settings, to be like, nah, my character just doesn't believe all that church stuff. I'm like, no, you do. Like, it's, and if you don't believe it, if your character has a valid reason for not believing it, they better, if they're in the Holy Roman Empire, they better keep their mouths shut, because it's a really bad thing in medieval Europe to say you don't believe in God, and in fact, I think it was impressed upon the group that how aberrant the deacon saying some of the things he did to you, how aberrant that was for a church person, even in the 1800s. To even use gods as a plural, or to even talk about, another god besides Jesus, even if he tried to cloak it that it was some sort of mystical enlightenment, how completely aberrant that would have been for the 1800s, and literally how insane that would sound. Even if your character is not, but your character background, it makes sense that you would not be that devout church person. Unlike Birdie, who is devout church person. He was raised by nuns, so and this kind of knee-jerk reaction that, oh, my character does, my character's not really religious. I'm like, at that time it was the norm. It was like I said, it was as normal as a modern Western thinking person, believing in science, believing in gravity. So that's always been a point of weirdness with me in these games. Now, again, you guys know that I am totally a-religious, to a degree, to a degree that is, I mean, to the point that my level of irreverence has even bothered some of the pagan groups I've gone and become involved with. Because I don't believe in just believing in whatever's there. I just follow along with the words and believe whatever's there. That's never been a way that I've operated, and this is from a person who, in today's world, largely has the privilege, has the background that I was not impressed upon me, that I did not follow a particular religion, that it was not forced, that I'm willing to say, look, in the medieval era, even your vampires were religious. And that's kind of the weird counterbalance with Dark Ages Vampire, or some of these other Dark Ages World of Darkness games, where I'm like, okay, but your character would be struggling with this idea unless they've gone the whole occultist or Satanist route, the heresy route, that your character would probably still believe in God, and probably believe they were damned.